Hello, this is Carly, also known as Clean Coach Carly. I'm the staff nutritionist for Healthy Habits Living. And as you know, our goal is to help you get healthy, stay healthy, and be healthy. So here is some information that can be actually critical for your health if you have certain conditions. So I'm talking today about Boluoke, and that is in fact how you say it. I have called the company in Canada many times and talked with them, especially talked with their scientists about some of their research that they conduct, and they say Boluoke. So it's called Boluoke, and Boluoke is made by Canada RNA, and it is a lumbrokinase enzyme. So we know that enzymes have lots of functions in our body. They're catalysts, which means they start processes. Lumbrokinase particularly is known for its ability to break down biofilms or fibrin. So it's used mostly for DVTs, deep vein thrombosis, and also for long-term chronic infections like Lyme disease. So this is when we have a colony of Lyme disease that is seemingly not affected by antibiotics or herbs. It's also very useful for people who have chronic mold exposure. So they've had an exposure and it's either colonized in their body or the mycotoxins have created biofilms. So you'll see on my screen over here that Boluoke comes in a 120 count, a 60, and a 30. So really depending on the client is the dose that you want to start at or work up to. For just general health and maybe daily maintenance, one enzyme capsule on an empty stomach is fine. But if you're really working on biofilms or you're working on a deep vein thrombosis or something like that, you're probably going to end up taking more. So let me tell you about my personal experience with lumbrokinase, Boluoke, and other types. So I had a PICC line in my arm so that I could get infusions. And if you don't know what that is, usually put in about here. It's a line that runs underneath the skin in a vein and usually ends up somewhere around the collarbone. So I had that so that it was easier for me to get infusions for the chronic Lyme and mold exposure that I was dealing with. That became infected with a staph infection. And because of the staph infection, I developed a DVT. So that's a deep vein thrombosis. So it's a blood clot in a deep vein. So that was super scary, of course. And I was hospitalized for both the infection and the DVT. And of course, they gave me blood thinners, injectable and capsule. And I was taking those because I was really scared. And it took me about 2 weeks to kind of get out of the hospital and normalized and to start thinking about how I was going to get rid of this DVT. I was on a blood thinner for about a month, and the ultrasound showed that there was no reduction in that blood clot. And I was really frustrated because I was taking this blood thinner, which works in a way that's not exactly healthy for your body and didn't seem like a really good solution for me. So I started doing my own research about how I could get rid of this DVT without having to not eat green vegetables, which is what one of the things you need to do when you are on a blood thinner, and without having to continue on the blood thinner, because it certainly wasn't working at that time. So I was going to have to go on a higher dose or another medication or who knows what. So I looked into fish oil and I looked into vitamin E, and I also looked into proteolytic enzymes. So proteolytic enzymes, of which lumbrokinase is one, these are the type of enzymes that break down protein in your body. And they are sometimes called systemic enzymes because they work, obviously, systemically. They work in the bloodstream usually to perform whatever function they're going to do, which is breaking down protein. So I started taking a low dose of lumbrokinase. I just ordered it online or got it at the health food store. And I started taking a higher dose, I think 3,000 or 4,000 dose of milligrams of fish oil and some vitamin E. And within about 2 weeks, I went back again, had my blood tested, and also had an ultrasound. And nothing had changed. And I was super frustrated. And so I started doing a little more research about, well, maybe I should increase my dose of lumbrokinase. And that's when I came across Boluoke. So I told you that Boluoke is a lumbrokinase enzyme, but what you might not know is that it is a patented and trademarked extract of a specific lumbrokinase enzyme. So here's the thing, when you go to the health food store or buy online, if you buy a bottle that says lumbrokinase, you're getting a stew of a bunch of lumbrokinase enzymes. So there apparently are a lot of enzymes called lumbrokinase, and they have subtype names. Boluoke, on the other hand, is the extract of one lumbrokinase that has been proven, shown in studies, and used clinically to reverse fibrin, so to eat away fibrin and biofilms. So when you buy the health food store version or the online version, you're getting like a stew of lumbrokinase. And somewhere in there is that one lumbrokinase extract that is helping you, but you're getting a very, very small dose of that. On the flip side, with Boluoke, you're only getting that one subtype lumbrokinase that's actually been studied to break down fibrin. So it's well worth the price because, as you might notice, Boluoke is much more expensive than buying just a standard lumbrokinase enzyme. But what you're getting is up to 20 or 50 times more powerful. And you can read more about that on my blog, on my website over here. But you can even see on the label, right, it says proprietary earthworm protein extract. So it's not just a big extract of a bunch of different lumbrokinase enzymes. It's that one particular one. So I'll get back to my story. So I started taking Boluoke, and I was being very careful because I was also still on a blood thinner, and you know, that can be dangerous. And so I was talking with my doctor about it, whom I trusted very much. And she was ordering, I think it was either once a week. The coagulation panel for me so that we could make sure that my blood wasn't getting too thin with the blood thinner and the lumbrokinase. So if you're going to take this endeavor on for a deep vein thrombosis, you absolutely need to work with your practitioner because Boluoke actually works. And so you need to be careful that you don't thin your blood too much. So I started on Boluoke. I started with the schedule that I recommend actually in my blog. And so you can check that out. But I started slowly and conservatively with one capsule. And the most important thing to know about Boluoke is that it's an enzyme. So if you take it at the same time as you eat food, that enzyme action is going to work on the proteins in your food. So you don't really want to do that because that's a pretty expensive digestive enzyme. What you want to do is take it on an empty stomach. So I was taking it first thing in the morning. And I was waiting, I think it was a half an hour, 45 minutes before I took any other medications or supplements or food. Well, long story short, I ramped up to, I think it was 4 capsules per day. I know it was 4 capsules per day. And I went back in 2 weeks. So I did that. I ramped up for about a week. And then for a week, took 4 capsules per day. And I went back to get an ultrasound, and the blood clot was completely dissolved. And the x-ray tech, the ultrasound tech was like stunned. She said, wow, I've never seen one clear up that quickly. So of course I told her what I'd been doing. Now, this is anecdotal, right? It's somewhat scientific, but not all the way scientific. But what is scientific is the studies that are backing lumbrokinase. And you can read those online if you're a nutrition nerd like me. Or you can just trust that this is medically backed, scientifically backed. And so if you choose to use this for DVT, which is what I used it for, or for biofilms, which I've also used it for, it's going to work. And so you really want to be aware of how powerful it is and work with your practitioner. Of course, I can give you some advice on that, on how to use it, what dosing, and what precautions to take, and how to include your medical practitioner in that. So again, Boluoke is a lumbrokinase enzyme, but it's much more powerful than anything else that you're going to buy off the shelf. So be aware of that. It's most useful for circulation. That's why my blog is called The Enzyme for Circulation. But it is also very, very useful for biofilms because it breaks down those proteins that are making up the biofilm. So as always, we are happy to help you and answer any questions at Healthy Habits Living. Send us an email or give us a call. Thanks and have a great day.